It's another beautiful day here in the Shire. And I was wondering, have you ever been served a slice of apple pie that looks perfect on the plate, only to discover it's obscenely disappointing in every way? This pie doesn't care about how it looks, because it's here to flood the plate with a thick cinnamon spice sauce that'll test your table manners. This time, Renee's making
farmhouse apple gravy pie. The edge crust is thick and crisp, made to be torn off and dipped into that apple gravy. I've been making it this way for decades, and not one person has asked for less apple gravy. People literally end up licking the plate clean, and today I'll show you exactly how to make it. First step. So I've cut and peeled some apples here. I have about 4 pounds of apples. I'm making a 10-inch kind of deep dish apple pie today. So this is plenty. And I'm gonna just show you how I peeled the apples. I cheat when I cut the apples, so I thought I would just show you. So I just peel the apple, make sure I get as much of that off as possible. And I love trying to see if I can get this peeling to come off as one piece. Oops, there we go. We got it. All right, so that is peeled. And so I learned this long ago, but I take a knife and just keep my hands down, below the knife, and I just go around the apple. And as I'm doing this, when I'm cutting, I pull to make sure to see where I am on the apple, because it's kind of hard to see, and I don't want to double cut any of those. So I'm cutting there's the first cut. I'm cutting all the way down to the core. Now I'm going to take this, and because the core comes out a little bit, I'm going to cut down through here. Not straight down, kind of around and then back down. And that is your apple comes out in pieces. And for me, this is the easiest way to do this. Some people like to have thinner slices, and that's fine. I'm using a softer apple today because I also like my apple pies a little bit less crunchy. And so I'm using Macintosh. It's a softer apple. And so now we've got these all cut and they are filled with juice. So the next step that we are going to do is I've got some sugar here. I am going to use probably a cup on this amount. So we're going to add that sugar. We're going to add some flour, and this is about a half a cup. I'm going to start with a quarter of a cup, about half of this. I've got some salt here, and it's about a teaspoon, and I'm gonna use about half of this. I've got some nutmeg, and I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of nutmeg to start. I'm gonna add, this is the taste that we love here, and so I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of cinnamon to start with. And then to get this going, I'm going to add just a little bit of fresh apple cider. I'm not going to add much, I'm just going to add a little bit. And then I'm going to stir this up and get those apples coated. And I like the color of the cinnamon on that. All right, so once you have this mixed up, we're gonna let this sit. We're gonna just keep an eye on it. We're gonna keep stirring as we let this sit. But what's happening now is that this mixture is pulling the liquid out of these apples. And if you don't do this, it gets pulled out inside of the crust. Some of it will thicken up a little bit because of the flour, but it's going to be liquidy. And we want that to all come out before we put it into the pie crust. And I'm going to show you how to take care of that flavorful, delicious liquid that's coming out of these apples.
Snow White took one bite out of an apple and slept for days. This pie's got 4 pounds. soaked in a cinnamon sugar sauce. If you don't hear from me, tell Renee I regret nothing.
Okay, so the apples have been sitting for about a half an hour. The nice thing I like about this is that this juice, despite the fact that there's so much of it, has already thickened up because of the flour that we put in. So that is a good sign. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put 1/2 to 3/4 of a stick of butter, and we're going to get that melting in there. This is the thing that is going to help with the juice in the bottom. We're gonna get this kind of in a caramel state with still some juice, and it's going to stop these apples from exuding any more liquids, and it's going to assure that they don't get too mushy despite the fact that I'm using a softer apple. So there's a lot of good that's about to come out of this next step. Okay, I'm just going to put this in. Whoops. And then I'm going to stir that butter in, and then I'm going to turn it down to medium. And what we want that to do is to heat up in order to see bubbles. And it does not make the apples too mushy because it doesn't take that long. So we're just going to let this sit for a minute, get heated up, stirring it occasionally. Okay, so I see down at the bottom some bubbles are starting to form, and that's going to allow that flour mixture to thicken up. Yep, that's just what we want it to do. Yep, perfect. Look at that. It's starting to bubble over here, and that's going to help that thicken right up. I'm going to leave that right down there and just keep stirring. It's almost working like a roux, except it's with apple juice, and it will continue to cook like this in the oven. And one thing we are going to do right now is I'm going to stir some of this up here and give this a try and make sure. This is where your unbalanced flavor comes from. People think once they've added the spices they just can't change it, but I'm going to dip this into that sauce down there and just check for the sweetness, the salt amount, and the spice, and that is perfect. It's the outside that you're really tasting with a little bit of apple, but for me that is perfect. And at this point, if you needed to add more cinnamon or more nutmeg or anything, you can. Sugar, once this gets warmed up, don't add flour, it will remain lumpy. I'm going to get the pie crust out. I have a pie crust recipe here. It's a single recipe pie crust. Just double everything, every ingredient, and you will and then cut it in half. You'll have a double crust pie for this. A double pie crust for this. Okay, that is good enough. See how thickened that has become? And that's what we're looking for. So we are going to just turn that off. I'm going to let it cool for about 10 minutes. Just so it's not piping hot, and it really isn't. It's just the liquid. But I'm going to let that cool down, and then we'll be back and put it in the pie crust and in the oven. And I'll show you how to make the perfect looking pie crust top. Okay, so I made this pie crust, and these apples have cooled down enough so that I'm happy with putting them in here. And we are going to just completely put all of these apples in this pie shell. Well, it's kind of warm still, but it's okay. Oh, that looks so yummy. And so then what you want to do is you want to just kind of push it down so that there's not a lot of air pockets in there. And this is how you avoid that top collapsing. Just make sure everything's in there and there are as few air bubbles as possible. And as you can see, that apple pie is beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to take my top crust. I'm going to unfold this. This way, and then we're going to pull this up, and if you have leftover pie crust, that is okay. All right, so now we're going to take a knife. We're going to clean up some of this, and we can make some cinnamon flavored doohickeys out of the leftover crust that I have right here. Just want those pieces a little bit even on this, because if it's too thick, it won't cook. You'll cook the apples too long and they'll be mushy. And I do like to have a fatter crust around this, and some people want. Okay, so then I just start rolling this, grab the underneath crust and roll the top crust underneath that bottom crust piece and just roll it up. So you're grabbing that piece of dough, that's the bottom piece, and you're making sure that the top is going over it and you won't have those leaks. And this is what I would call a rustic pie. I don't worry too much about having it completely even around the edges. And then I just take my fingers and I push here and push in here, and I just go all the way around. Make sure you're pulling this back so that it's staying. So I'm pushing harder this way than I'm pushing this way, because I want that crust to stay there. I don't want it to shrink. And this crust is ice cold. It's been in the refrigerator for a couple of hours this morning. I made it early this morning. Okay, so now that looks pretty good. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some cream and we're going to add some sugar to it and stir that up. It needs to be quite thick. Not too thick, but we're going to just... Okay, I like the way that looks. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to brush this sugar and cream all over the top of this pie. My grandmother taught me to do this, and every pie I ever had that she made had this delicious concoction on the top, and I'm telling you, it is worth the taste. I'm going to take this brush and just go around the edges here. You don't have to do this. You can just, whatever you normally do to a pie crust, you can do, but you will be so surprised how well this turns out. It gives that an extra crunch to that top pie crust. Okay, this is the last step towards that top crust not puffing up and you cut down and there's nothing there. So you want to vent this pie, and I just make vents all over the top. You can make a pattern if you want to. And you just want that air to be able to get out. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because despite our best efforts, pies drip sometimes. So I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet. And then this is really important for your crust, your bottom crust. My oven, I have a pizza stone in here that helps hold the heat. I'm going to put my pan directly on top of that, and that is going to help your bottom crust, because this is a wet pie. And so I'm checking my temperature. It's 350. It's a little light, so I'm going to turn it up just a tad. And we're going to leave it in there for, I would start checking your pie around 45 minutes to an hour. I've almost never cooked an apple pie less than an hour. We'll be back and I'll let you know. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this has been in for about an hour and 10 minutes, and I'm going to take this out. Oh my gosh, it looks divine. I have a little split on the top, which is perfectly all right. But here is the apple pie. Look at that. It looks gorgeous. The crust, I didn't have to put the crust thing on or anything. And this split just because it was getting near the end and it's done. I can see little pieces of apple in there still. I'm so excited. Okay, we're gonna let this cool off for a little bit. And I can tell you right now that looking at this cream, the innards, see how it's not runny? Hopefully the rest of it is the same way, but that is looking so perfect.
It's golden, it's crisp, and the glorious smell marks the end of whatever diet you were pretending to be on. Renee says we need to let it cool. I say we need less adult supervision. Be right back.
Okay, so the pie is still somewhat warm. I am going to cut this and fingers crossed that the middle is going to hold. Some of it's going to run out a little bit anyway, but we'll just see what it looks like. Oh, look at how crunchy, yummy, delicious that crust is. Look at the pieces falling off. They're just flaking off. So at least the crust is good. Okay, let's give this a taste. The first thing I like to do is just take a chunk of that crust and dip it into this stuff that's fallen out of the pie. Oh. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Look at all the juice that's in there. Everything is coated and the apples have held their shape. I hope you make this. It's so good. Whoops. Thank you. Thank you.
Ready for seconds? Don't put your spoon down yet. Tap this video and Renee will meet you there.